All right, Tate, welcome and thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me again.
Yvonne just reminded me that you were our first official guest on Data Points, so I appreciate you coming back.
I wasn't aware, but hopefully, this is something that's informative, and hopefully I could provide some value.
No, you definitely do. I would say, especially in your capacity as the chairman of the board with the Guam Chamber of Commerce, right?
That's right.
Right. So now that it's October, right? You're almost at the end of your term.
That's right.
The ascendancy to the chairmanship was, something new to you, right?
Correct.
Something that you're really committed to, and you put a lot of yourself into it. And now, it's kind of like your victory lap as you close out. You get you were able to provide your membership the relief they wanted by being a key component of passing the GPT reduction, right? So tell me about that. Tell me about what that experience has been like for you.
It's been it's been a roller coaster ride. Seriously, it has. A lot of stuff that I didn't expect. It was a lot more challenging than we initially thought. And I'll be honest with you, Ryan, when we first went on this journey of BPT reduction, remember the chamber has been talking about it for years, and we just didn't have, the stars didn't really align. This year, I think we were fortunate that certain items, certain requirements were there, and we decided to take a head-on approach to it. We didn't anticipate that it was going to pass. We didn't want to expect that. That's not what we will expect, but we wanted to make sure, everyone is aware of the business interests in all of this, and just get that messaging out to lawmakers and the general public that businesses have been suffering. There's certain things businesses would also like to do, and we need the governors and the government's assistance when it comes to, ensuring the private sector is thriving and that we could grow.
And what I really didn't appreciate in the discourse is the villainization of businesses as a function of the reduction of BPT.
Yes.
So, and because as someone who participates in those decisions, I know that retention of talent is important.
Correct.
The well-being of your key people is important.
Correct.
Because how can you be 100% if you're struggling and being pulled in every different direction?
You're absolutely right.
So that is key, right?
Right.
Our team's success is our success.
Sure.
We all understand that, and we understand what we invest in our people. And I don't think we're to the point where they're so commoditized, especially we live in such a small community.
Sure.
We see them in church, we see them in the streets, we see them at the mall. So it's hard.
Yeah. And I understand where the government is coming from. Also, at the same time, they want to take care of their own people. But a 22% increase in their salary has really put so much pressure on the private sector. Don't forget that, right? And I told the governor this. I said, Governor, remember we were at odds about the minimum wage, but most of our staff are not being paid minimum wage anymore. I mean, with the 22% increase, that put upward pressure for us to adjust.
Absolutely.
The private sector has to adjust, right? So we were already giving our staff raises as to keep up with the labor market as it is. And then on top of that, we still had a lot of private sector employees that were being picked up by GovGuam, right? And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that that's just the nature of the game. That's how the labor market works, is that, hey, if there's competition and there's better offers, then we got to up our game, right? But without the assistance from the government, especially when the private sector is struggling the way it is, we just thought we wanted to give raises to our staff. We wanted to make improvement to our businesses. But without significant investments and significant relief, it would be difficult. That's what the message was, is that we need to help out our private sector. It is not thriving. It is struggling right now. And any type of relief would help.
I agree. So can you talk to me a little bit about the nuance of what you negotiated? Because, in the heat of discourse, it's sometimes it's hard to extract like what's being represented as true and factual. But there was a lot of talk about this $40 million number, right? And is it a real number? Is it not a real number? Do you understand?
Yes, I do. So, so based on BBMR's report, the number that they're putting out is 1% reduction on BPT would impact the budget by 80 million, right? So now, if you did a 0.5% decrease, that's 40 million.
Sure.
That's the 40 million they're talking about. So, so the expected shortfall is about $40 million to Guam's budget if they implemented a 0.5 decrease in BPT.
Yes.
Now, don't forget that. That doesn't necessarily mean that is a net negative to what positioning and standing they were at.
Right, and that's the key distinction, right? And I think that's where the nuance is being missed, right? And that's where, on the discourse side, this sounds really scary, but on the finance side, well, no, it's not really that significant.
It's not only is it not significant, I mean, you're talking about a GovGuam budget of around $1.4 billion, right? $1.4 billion. Of that, we're asking for a relief of 40 million. And if it does get implemented, that 1 full percent decrease, that would be $80 million, right? So, but then the fact is, there was a newspaper article actually just published yesterday. GovGuam had a surplus of over $90 million this fiscal year.
Right.
So, we're not trying to take away from GovGuam. They already had a surplus of 90, and we're saying, give some of that back to the business community, reduce that surplus by 40 million this year, and then another 40 million next year. And that's kind of like the middle ground that we found. And we said, we don't want to impact government operation. We don't want GovGuam to be inoperable because they can't pay their staff, right? We're not asking to cut any people. All we're asking is that surplus has to be given back to the business community because it is a business community that paid it in the first place.
And you kind of couched it to me in a way that made sense. You know, when times were tough, the business community was asked to step up and pay a little bit more, right?
We were.
And so that was why you supported, well, not you, but the chamber supported that effort. And now it's like, well, now we're really struggling. We're going through this period of tough times. Can we have that back now?
That's exactly the position that we took.
Sure, but it got highly charged and highly politicized, right?
It has, but at times it was what government officials need to understand. When the BPT was increased 8 years ago, they mentioned that this was supposed to be a temporary increase. And that's when government was struggling and they asked the chamber to help out, step up. And the chamber stepped up during that time. We didn't give any pushback during that time. We said, if the business community, it needs to put more in the coffer because GovGuam is struggling, let us help you guys.
Sure.
Right? But, and that was 8 years ago, mind you, right? Now, 8 years later, our business environment is totally different. A lot of businesses are closing down. You know, I'm sure you heard some large businesses are thinking about pulling out here on Guam.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you have all of these unfortunate news, I mean, you got to start thinking about how can we save the private sector? Because without a healthy private sector, it's difficult for government to grow the revenue.
Well, tell me this, right? The more and more data that I see, the more cynical I become that the third leg is coming back, right? Tourism, because of competing destinations and the economics of it, and how heavily do you have to incentivize? It's a big chunk of money.
It is.
What do you? And you must have heard like the plans and all that. What do you think is going to happen in the visitor industry in the coming years?
Well, I don't doubt that Guam's visitor industry is going to recover fully at some point, and it will. We've had cases in the past where we've been hit with pretty significant challenges in the past. I don't know if you remember. We had the Korean air crash, we had the Asian economic crisis. We recovered from all of that. We had SARS, I don't doubt that. What needs to happen, though, is on a federal, national level, we need to rethink our currency exchange rate.
There you go.
Okay. With the dollar being so strong, and it's not only a Guam thing, I'll tell you that for sure. It's all over the U.S. right now. Tourism is struggling, just all over.
Yes.
It's a national effect of the currency. When the dollar is too strong, it just makes it a lot more expensive for individuals to visit the United States, right? Hawaii they have a different mixture of tourists that visit Hawaii. Hawaii has a lot of mainlanders. These people are, dealing on a dollar-to-dollar basis. So the impact is insignificant. Versus Hawaii, their segment of Japanese tourists and their segment of foreign tourists has decreased dramatically. But their mainland tourists have been able to make up a lot of that shortfall, right? Versus here on Guam, our tourist profile is mainly coming from Japan and Korea, right? And these two countries have seen significant currency fluctuations, and they're a little. They not only see Guam as a destination, they see other destinations around there. Southeast Asia is opening up, and it's to their currency actually has an advantage to the Vietnamese dong,
Right.
or Philippines pesos, right? So that's where they're not seeing the value that was there at one point,
Right.
when it's coming to Guam.
Right, because duty free, there used to be all these goods that they can buy that weren't readily available where they were, but the experience has devolved from that to where it is now.
Correct.
So what do you? I guess if you had to bet, so you think it's going to recover, right? But what do you think it's going to look like in 5 years?
I think we have to shift. We have to shift from because Guam was always a wholesale market. You had these large tour companies that would book out rooms at significant discounts, and they would try to sell these rooms at significant discounts at wherever the clients are located, the potential tourists are located. I think that has to shift.
Sure.
The second thing is we gotta be able to give that. I mean, the tourists these days, yes, there's still remnants of tourists that want to go on a vacation and be able to shop, but that's not the majority of the tourists these days. They want an experience, right? So they want to be able to come here. They want to be able to taste the food, experience the local culture. I think this was in the GVB report that the one significant advantage Guam has compared to other destinations is our culture. So then we need to revitalize our culture. We need to be able to give new experiences. And another thing is when we revive that culture, we need to put modern elements to it. A culture evolves. Every culture evolves, and I think Guam culturally need to evolve from our normal fire shows that we used to do. I think if we take that idea, we evolve it by significantly improving it or adding in technological elements to it, I think that's what they're looking for.
So for me, it's immersion, right? There used to be this little Thai restaurant that I used to go to. This guy Brad, and he actually left to move to northern Thailand, where he was going to do a B&B, where you come, you stay with them, and you can pick the papaya and harvest all this stuff, and authentic Thai cooking classes, and in the mountains, and you just kind of chill, right? I think that's what people want now. Right?
That's absolutely right.
Designed around wellness. So, when I saw Hamamoto Fruit World get purchased, and now I see some of the events that they're building, I think that's what we need. We need kind of more immersives. People will come and pay to harvest pumpkin tips, right? And taro in the authentic way and love it forever. But we're not cultivating that experience.
Correct. You're right. I mean, imagine. I mean, this was an idea that I did throw out some time ago. Imagine Jeff's Pirate Cove, right? Very local, right? and also has that, pirate element to it, you could really capitalize on that.
Absolutely.
They don't have any lodging facility there, but the facility, I mean, you have a bar there, you have some shade there. Imagine putting up a glamping site there,
Right.
Now, these folks, they want to come there, they want to be comfortable. They don't want to be hot and sweating, right? So you have nice tents that are built for that are glamping stands for glamorous camping. So you're going to have AC in all of these tents, but also have a center campfire every night where people could come. They could grill their marshmallow, or they could, or there will be some type of entertainment at the center court, and they will all have individual restrooms within their tents, and they would have a great experience in the evening. Watching the stars, they fall asleep in that type of environment. Those are the type of experiences these folks are looking for.
No, I agree. Like even Valley of the Laddie, when a plug for you, Dave, and the Valley of the Laddie, when they pull up to the dock, they sound the conch, and then they sing the chant, right? And it's immersive, right? It's like I've arrived somewhere. I'm in an experience. That's what people want, right? They want the experience, but nothing is experiential here per se. It's more so retail.
Yeah.
Retail on the beach, right? That's what you get. You get a few tours. Here's Mount Lam Lam. Here's, right? But that's not what people want anymore.
Yeah, you're right. I think there is, GVB is making headways. I think, but at the same time, yes, having these subsidized airfare costs is one way, but I think we need to clean house also.
There you go, right? And that's where I'm at, right? I think the night market is amazing, right? The turnout there, it's like, that's great idea. Yeah, good job, GVB, right? Put that on. Until the guy with the car comes, and or until the homeless people start coming. It's like, these are real problems, right? But I think they're not seriously being addressed as part of that plan, right? It's always like, oh, that's GPD's problem. No, it's not. It's not GPD's problem, right? It's everybody's problem, and it's your product's problem,
right?
And you got to solve your product's problem.
Right.
So I think, can you talk to me about kind of efforts that the chamber is making to solve some of those problems in terms of like?
Yeah, sure. From the beginning, when, during my chairmanship, a lot of talk was about tourism and how we could revive tourism. We also don't want to be stepping on other people's shoes, right? GVB is the marketing arm of our tourism industry, right? And we're not trying to replace their role. That's their expertise. That's what they do best. Let them, drive that. Instead, on the other hand, what Chamber thought was sorely lacking was on the destination management here in Guam. Like, how do we improve things on Guam? And one of the things Chamber has been doing is, hey, let's figure out a way that we could have just clean streets, clean restrooms,
right?
Because all of that matters. Within the past few years, I don't know if you've seen it, but on Marine Drive, there's a bunch of graffiti, rundown buildings. Those are the problems we're trying to address. Cleaning house. I think if we're going to welcome guests to our home, we need to clean it first, right? And one way we could do that is let's clean the streets. Let's make sure that our power poles are not graffitied all over everywhere, or our private buildings are not defaced. Those are the issues that Chamber thought we should address. And so one of the things we did is we hired an individual in partner with GVB to go out and survey all the properties on Marine Drive. And that report is going to be coming out within the next few days.
What do you mean survey?
Survey, identify locations and improvements that we feel that needs to be done, whether it's on public or private property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And identification is the first part. The second part is reaching out to the different departments that have jurisdiction, whether it's DPW. Let's say it's a retaining wall that's been, just defaced, and we're going to have to reach out to DPW and ask them, hey, is this something that we could paint? We could paint this over. And then if it is a telephone box, then we're going to reach out to GTA and ask them, hey, your telephone box seems to be falling apart. is there any way we could, and it's a hazard too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and is there a way we could, improve the box so that it doesn't not only become a hazard, but also improve the aesthetic appeal? Those are things that the chamber have been doing. That's one aspect. On the other aspect, we're trying to put together a legislative, basically a new law, incentivizing private property owners to improve their property.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty similar to the tax credit that's available for new hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, this is, when there's a tax credit that's available already in place for any new hotels or any existing hotels that want to go through significant renovation. So we're saying, hey, why don't we apply that same concept and apply it to private property owners?
Sure.
If you're willing to put in some money, improve your property, then we'll give some of that back as tax credit.
Right. A maintenance credit, basically.
Correct.
And you're building every 2 years.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, those are some ideas that are being thrown out there. Of course, whenever you're dealing with private property owners, you always got to take both the carrot and the stick approach, right? The carrot is this new incentive. The stick is, hey, if you really don't improve your property, then there will be fines at a certain point. And there's already laws in place for that. There's a fine system. So that's something that we're also exploring.
Well, outside of beautification, I think the most, beautification is great, right? But I think the main thing is our at-risk population, right? And the crime, but specifically the homeless, right? That spilling out into the streets is just extremely distasteful. And I think the chamber really needs to focus on that, because the private sector is going to have to step up and take care of that problem through funding community organizations, through pushing the government, pushing policy for the government to allow that to be caught. Is the chamber doing anything aligned with that?
In terms of that, I know directly when it comes to the homeless, we haven't started a program directly tied to that. But when it comes to the real reason why we do have a significant number of homeless people is we have a drug problem.
Okay.
So the chamber has always been involved as a sponsor of the juvenile drug court.
Okay.
So that's one way we get involved. We're trying to teach the younger generation that, the drug is not something that you want to touch. This is something that you should take seriously. Also try to provide guidance to these juveniles so that, they become contributing adults when they're older. So that's the other approach that the chamber is taking.
I see. So can you talk to me about kind of your ascendancy through that, right? Your access through the chamber allows you access to leadership, specifically the Armed Forces Committee. You meet with leaders from Washington, right? You travel and you meet who's the highest ranking political person that you've met in your capacity as the chairman?
As chairman, I think we were able to meet some senators from the U.S. Congress that oversaw the Armed Forces Committee out there.
Right.
And that was significant because when the senators come out here, they don't come as individuals, they come as a group. And a lot of them are very aware of what's going on here on Guam. It's not, normally for some of them, it's not the first time. So, not only do we emphasize the partnership we have with the military, but also kind of let them know what our challenges are here locally. And that's been very, there's a lot of cooperation that goes on between both the private sector and the government side.
I see. So you regularly meet with the admirals, right? Well, not you personally, but the Armed Forces
yes,
Committee.
through the Armed Forces Committee. Yes, we do. I know we have two new admirals. They spoke recently at our at our general membership.
And one of the questions that was asked was about basic allowance for housing and also overseas housing allowance. So that distinction was going to be made, right?
Correct.
And we're at an interesting time where there's going to be this mass offering of housings, and it's all targeted towards military personnel.
Correct.
Right. But at the same time, there's going to be this mass offering for housing that's going to be targeted towards, or that's being facilitated by GURA, right? And then there's also a couple LIHTCs and, middle income housing developments are going to come in, right? So these markets, they say there's about 10,000 people that need housing in this underserved middle income market. So all this housing is coming to the market, right? But you're in an economic situation where people are graduating from high school and they're leaving, never coming back, right? The middle class is leaving because it's too expensive. It's not sustainable, right? What's that going to look like, right? Who's left to buy these houses? And when the military eventually goes away, right? Now we have 1,400, the surplus of units, right? Who's left working here? And then, military normalizes housing, right? So it's like, okay, so the distinction between overseas housing allowance and basic allowance for housing is use it or lose it versus I keep the difference.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So now you have these enclaves, right? And we were told they're not going to be enclaves, but, they're going to be, we're building them specifically targeted towards that personnel, right? So the likelihood is going to be predominantly that. But so now the Department of Defense, have provided ample opportunities behind the fence and outside the fence for you. I know because I vetted them. I made sure they got built. They're all nice. They're being properly managed. So now it makes sense. Well, if you're going to issue all those options, we're just going to make it, you pull it out and it's BAH, right? We're going to limit those options to you. And now, what is that? What happens now?
That's a complex question, right? That's a very loaded question.
Yeah, huge. But I'm trying to set the table, right? It's like, and just to get I'm not trying to answer you every component, but I'm just painting a picture and asking you what you think of that picture and point and counterpoint.
Well, I'll tell you what my thoughts are, okay? And at this point, with the military being here, without them, I think we would have significant challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, our economy is I wouldn't say dependent, but that is a huge element of our local economy here. I mean, we saw it during COVID. When tourism was down, the defense industry is what kept Guam up, Yeah. It kept us afloat. Let's not forget that, okay? So with them being here, I think with the military being here and them looking for housing outside the fence, I think there's a reason why they're doing that. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think they should come out of the military bases. It shouldn't be, inside the fence, outside the fence situation. Them being integrated into our local neighborhood, I think that's great. I think that is a great approach. In terms of housing affordability, and I think this is where you're talking about, of course, we're talking about the military, you're talking about our local population. Yes, we have LIHTC, these subsidized programs, I believe, yes, these subsidized programs should be there. These are for the low-income individuals, right? That's what LIHTC is for. But we need to figure out a way to help out the middle class.
Yes.
GURA does have significant control over the low or moderate income. But if anyone was to be above that threshold, there's no one out there for them.
And that's the growth aspect of the market, right? That's what we've identified. If anyone's going to be upwardly mobile and bring everyone out, if there's going to be economic growth, you have to have that healthy middle class.
Right.
And the point I'm trying to make is there is none. And you're going to have all this housing and these people allocated to this housing, but at the end of the day, there's not going to be anyone to take it once the demand is it's going to be a 20-year lease, 30-year lease. It's not going to go on forever. And, I'm a little bit older than you, so I'll couch that. I remember after the military pulled out, how things, and the economy in Japan tanked, how bad it was. And we were begging those guys to come back, please, 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 because it was dire straits.
Correct.
The economy was tanking, all that, right? But I would also say the economy right now is built on the military's back, and the affordable housing issue is a supply issue. It's a material issue, but you have to look at these rates being for housing as predominantly the issue that's squeezing out the middle class, right? Because they can't compete with these subsidies. That all these variables are making housing very expensive to produce. So of course the developer is going to chase the subsidies one way or the other, right? The market is incentivized to do that. And we're not doing anything to help these middle people that you need to get the economic growth, right? And I think if you're subsidizing something, we talk about subsidy, and these are the conversations that we have. If we're going to make an investment as a community, as a government, as a membership, then those are the people we absolutely have to help. And that's like lenders have to stack their CRA credits and get them to own the multifamilies that are lending, right? We have to incentivize businesses to pay their employees to keep them, right? It's like, okay, we have to create better programs to bring replacement labor to sustain these businesses that do choose to stay until we can recruit talent to come here. And those are the programs that we need, and those are the programs that needs to come to the forefront. And that's where I think the chamber needs to focus and position moving forward, right? Because it's not just policy, it's people, and we're losing the people in so many different ways.
Correct. You know, and this is something that I did put a lot of thought into, and unfortunately, it's not something that could just be talked about and pushed forward. It's really, there has to be a will within Gov Guam. I'll tell you that for sure, okay? Gov Guam has a large inventory of land here on Guam. Guam Ancestral Land Commission, they have swath of land. The problem that they're having is they're not funded properly, or whether, some of these lots are not subdivided. Imagine, the whole idea behind Guam Ancestral Land Commission was let's get homes for our local population. I think they need to step up at this point. They need to understand their role. I also believe that they haven't been able to issue out any leases for a while because some of their lands haven't been subdivided.
Right.
Yeah. So, there has to be a will there. Someone has to push that. Someone has to understand that these large swath of land, there's people that could take it and make good use of it. But we also cannot set them up for failure. And that has happened in the past.
Well, I really think there's too many competing priorities, right? We have to say we can't say we're going to solve all the problems. We're just going to solve this one problem.
Correct.
And every agency, top to bottom, is like, this is what we're doing, right? And that's the focus. And I think that's been lost. And when you say will, it's like there is will in these individual fiefdoms, but you run into the other fiefdoms and the walls and the silos, right? And the competing interests. And that's where I've always been, let's just do it. Forget them. Forget the government. Let's just action private industry to set policy. You've proven that you can set, the business community can rally support and set policy, right? We should just align, move forward.
I think there has to be, this is a much bigger problem than just what the chamber can tackle, I think.
Okay.
Not only does the private sector need to come in here, but there has to be support from the public.
Yes.
Okay. And when I say public, I'm talking about Gov Guam specifically. Private industry understands there's a problem. There's a certain way to solve it. But yes, we can legislate the hell out of it, but if there's no takers on it, then how do we move forward with it, right? So, yes, we could give direction. We could advise Gov Guam. Gov Guam, they have the inventory of land. Without their cooperation, it's almost hard for the private industry to try to get something up that is even within that affordable range.
Well, I would say Chamorro Land Trust, there is a significant ton of inventory locked up in that. And I think one of the most significant issues in that is you're going to issue these people, these applicants and awardees, 99-year leases, right? Those are bankable leases. Right.
99-year leases. The problem with those lots is they don't have the sewer. They don't have any of the infrastructure. So then what happens is these people use it as shacks, as ranches. They fall apart. Eventually, it becomes slums after a while. That's the problem.
Well, I agree the infrastructure is a problem, but I guess the larger point I was trying to make is like there is from what I understand, there's a distinction in the law that doesn't allow mortgage financing, right, on those for the term of the lease.
That's another.
Right. So if we fix that, then someone would come in and bring in the infrastructure reasonably, because then you could transact those lots would become eligible for mortgage financing.
Correct.
The market come in, the land costs would be relatively inexpensive, right? That would create significant traction but still the industry has to mobilize, the houses have to be built.
Correct.
All that stuff, right? So where is the direction on that? Do you know anything about that?
No, there hasn't been any movement. I haven't heard anything, but this is exactly where I believe the private-public partnership can work.
Yes.
Okay? Imagine a private developer comes in, they take a hold of this large piece of land. They're the ones. I mean, Guam is already having trouble financing even the subdivision of it. Mm-hmm. Imagine a private industry, developer coming in, subdivide it. Subdividing a large piece of land is going to cost a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. So the developer is able to subdivide it, put in all the infrastructure. Their investment has to be compensated somehow,
Also,
so then that's where I think they need to come to agreement with Guam and say, hey, look, these lands will all have infrastructures. They'll all be mortgageable. They'll all be financeable. They'll all be, insurable. But then the private developer has to upfront all that cost. So therefore, there has to be some type of exit strategy for them. So that's a way that the public sector and the private sector can come together. Private sector can bring in all the resources so to make this land developable.
Right. And it's all there, Tate. It's all there.
That's a solution that that I've been talking about for years. But again, there has to be a will, right? There has to be the will to push that, but there isn't.
Yeah, but I will say, banks are heavily incentivized to fund that type of development, because funding that type of development in a way that facilitates housing like that, specifically for an underserved population,
correct,
stacks Community Reinvestment Act credits,
correct,
right? And then the exit on that also reconvenes to the bank. Mm-hmm. So, I think on the chamber side, there needs to be some education, in terms of what the potential is in partnering with and what the potential for movement is in the market by partnering and aligning with these programs and deepening the education in the community. Because right now, there's very few people who understand how the dynamics of that structure work. Mm-hmm. But one guy does, Carlos, right? Mm-hmm. Carlos Camacho, the original gangster of Flight Tech, right? And he's always found a way to leverage government programs, right? But there's a lot of people here, and there's people now who can do those things, and we just need policy to align with, as you say, will.
Correct. Yeah, you're right. Great. Yeah.
Hey, you have any parting words, for your membership? I know it's membership month or something like that, right? Aren't you doing a membership drive right now?
Yeah, membership drive. We're doing some membership drive, but at the same time, we're also, prepping for. I'm prepping for my departure as chairmanship. So
yeah, they say the best title is the past chairman. Now you just get to sit back and you've done your time, and now you just get to kind of sing and just weigh in whenever.
I'm hoping to get there.
Right on.
Yeah.
Emeritus is
hoping to get there. Yeah, but it's been an interesting year, and I appreciate everything that the chamber has done, and the membership has come out. They've really supported this initiative. I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff that the chamber has accomplished this year, we couldn't have done it with a lot of the membership coming out and supporting and just keeping us on track. Catherine, our president, she's probably pulling hair many days because of all the demands and all the all the deliverables that I was expecting. So I do thank her a lot and the chamber team over there.
Right.
Yeah, but it's been interesting, and it's also been very informative.
As a young person coming up in business, I'm not young anymore, but I was just talking about when I came out, I wouldn't have envisioned myself joining chamber, being a member of chamber, participating in chamber, right? But there's so many avenues to chamber through GOIP, but the networking opportunities are amazing, and the collective power of the membership is also significant, right? And the awareness that it brings by just being in the room, once a month, and then being in the committees and connecting, because really the committee work is where it's at, right? Yeah, and that's where you really kind of forge those relationships and meet the people that help you really kind of move your business. Sure. And would you say that's been beneficial to you?
Significantly,
right.
Of course.
Well, that's how you do it, right?
Yeah.
To grow.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the stuff I've been doing has always been it's something that I've learned, I grasp, and there's been great mentors within the chamber network. A lot of folks have provided the guidance that I needed when I needed it.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us and your experience, and look forward to seeing you again. Hopefully, we'll get you we'll get you in a different capacity.
Sure.
Once you're out, you can tell us all the dirt. Tell me
sure.
All right, Tae,
that's gonna take a long time.
All right, man.
Okay.